The rain came down in sheets that Thursday morning, turning the Chicago streets into rivers of grey. Marcus Chen sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. The dashboard clock read 8:47 a.m., his interview, the interview that could change everything for him. And his daughter was scheduled for 9:30 a.m. downtown. He'd left early, given himself plenty of buffer time, but Chicago traffic had other plans. Through the blur of his windshield wipers, Marcus saw her. An elderly woman stood on the sidewalk, her walker tilted at a dangerous angle, one wheel stuck in a storm drain. Her thin frame shook as she struggled against the wind and rain, her floral dress plastered to her body, hair matted to her face. People rushed past her, heads down, umbrellas angled against the downpour. Nobody stopped. Nobody even slowed down. Marcus checked the clock again. 8:48 a.m. The interview location was still 20 minutes away in good. Today's traffic would make it 40. Maybe more. This was his fourth interview this month, but the first one that felt real. That felt like it could actually lead somewhere. The position was for a senior project manager at Meridian Tech, one of the fastest-growing companies in the Midwest. The salary alone would mean Emma could go to that art program she'd been dreaming about. It would mean he could finally stop choosing between paying the electric bill and buying her new shoes. But the woman was still there, struggling, alone. Marcus closed his eyes, and in that darkness, he saw his own mother. Saw her the way she'd been in her final years, frail and unsteady, relying on the kindness of strangers when he'd been deployed overseas, unable to be there for her. He'd promised himself then that he'd be the kind of person who stopped, who helped, who saw people. The clock read 8:49 a.m. when he pulled over. The rain soaked through his only interview suit the moment he stepped out of the car. His carefully ironed white shirt clung to his skin as he jogged over to the woman, his dress shoes splashing through puddles that would take days to dry. "Ma'am, let me help you," Marcus said, raising his voice over the storm. She looked up at him with startled, watery blue eyes. Her entire body was trembling, whether from cold or exhaustion or fear, he couldn't tell. "My walker," she managed, her voice barely audible. I was trying to get to my car." Marcus knelt in the rain, his suit pants soaking through immediately, and worked the walker's wheel free from the drain. The metal was slippery in his hands, and for a terrifying moment, he thought it might slip and send them both tumbling. But he steadied himself, freed the wheel, and helped her regain her balance. "Where's your car?" he asked. She pointed a shaking hand toward a parking garage half a block away. It might as well have been a mile in this weather, in her condition. "Okay," Marcus said, making a decision that he knew would cost him everything. "I'm going to help you get there. We'll go slow." The walk to the garage took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of Marcus supporting most of her weight while she shuffled forward, the walker more ceremonial than functional in the storm. 15 minutes of watching his future slip away, 1 minute at a time. His phone buzzed twice with reminders about his interview. He ignored them both. "What's your name?" the woman asked as they finally reached the shelter of the parking garage. Marcus Chen." "I'm Helen," she said, and even through her exhaustion, he could see her trying to smile. "Helen Morrison, I don't know how to thank you. Everyone else they just walked past." "You don't need to thank me," Marcus said, though his heart was breaking. It was 9:17 a.m. now. There was no way he'd make the interview. Even if he called, even if he explained, who would believe him? Who would hire someone who couldn't even show up on time? "Where's your car?" he asked. Helen looked around, confused. I thought it was on this level, but..." Her voice cracked. "I can't remember. I can't remember where I parked." Marcus felt the last thread of hope snap, but he kept his voice gentle. "It's okay. We'll find it." "What kind of car is it?" "A black Lexus, but there are so many black cars. And Tears began rolling down her weathered cheeks. "I'm so sorry. You probably have somewhere to be, and here I am, a foolish old woman who can't even remember where she parked." "Hey," Marcus said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not foolish. You're having a hard day. We all have hard days. Come on, let's walk the garage together. We'll find it." It took another 20 minutes. By the time they located her car on the 3rd level, Marcus had missed his interview by half an hour. His phone had stopped buzzing with reminders and started buzzing with a call from an unknown number, probably the company. Wondering where he was, crossing his name off their list. He helped Helen into her car, made sure she was steady, checked that her heat was working. His own body was numb from the rain, his suit completely ruined, his shoes squelching with every step. "I don't know how to repay you," Helen said, looking up at him from her driver's seat. Her hands had finally stopped shaking. "Please, let me give you something for your trouble." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You don't owe me anything. Just drive safely, okay? Get home safe. At least tell me, do you have a card? A way I can reach you? I'd like to send you something, a proper thank you." Marcus almost laughed. A card. He'd had business cards once, back before the layoffs, back when he'd been someone. "I don't," he said simply. "But really, Mrs. Morrison, I'm just glad you're safe." She studied his face for a long moment, her blue eyes sharp despite her earlier confusion. "You missed something important to help me, didn't you?" Marcus tried to smile. Nothing that can't be rescheduled. They both knew he was lying. He watched her drive away, then stood in the parking garage in his ruined suit, rain still dripping from his hair, and finally checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Meridian Tech, 1 voicemail. He didn't need to listen to it to know what it said. The drive home was a blur. He kept replaying the morning, wondering if he'd made the right choice, wondering how he'd explain to Emma that the interview, the one he'd promised would change things, was gone. Wondering how many more months they'd be scraping by, how many more times he'd have to see her pretend. She didn't need things, so he wouldn't feel bad. Emma was at school when he got home. He changed out of the soaked suit, hanging it up even though he knew it was probably ruined beyond saving. Then he sat at their small kitchen table and put his head in his hands. His phone rang. Unknown number. Probably a spam call, but he answered anyway. "Is this Marcus Chen?" A woman's voice, professional, clipped. "Yes." "This is Jennifer Reeves. I'm the executive assistant to the CEO of Meridian Tech. I'm calling about your interview this morning." Marcus's stomach dropped. "I know I missed it. I'm so sorry. I had an emergency and I should have called, but—" "Mr. Chen," Jennifer interrupted, "I'm not calling to reprimand you. I'm calling because my boss would like to meet with you. Today, if possible. Would 2 p.m. work?" Marcus blinked. Yes, 2 p.m. works. But I don't understand. Just come to the executive floor when you arrive. Someone will be waiting for you." The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone, confused but not daring to hope. Maybe they were just being professional, giving him a chance to explain before officially passing on him. Maybe this was just courtesy, but he'd take it. He'd put on his backup suit, not as nice, a little worn, but dry, and he'd take whatever chance they were willing to give him. At 1:45 p.m., Marcus walked into the gleaming lobby of Meridian Tech. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place he'd once imagined, himself working before life had gotten complicated. He gave his name to the receptionist, expecting to be directed to the HR floor where his original interview had been scheduled. Instead, she smiled and said, "Take the elevator to the 15th floor. Ms. Morrison is expecting you." Morrison. The name rang a bell, but Marcus couldn't place it. He stepped into the elevator, his heart pounding, his mind racing through possible scenarios. The doors opened to reveal a reception area that screamed money and power, original art on the walls, furniture that probably cost more than his car, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. And standing there, wearing an elegant charcoal suit instead of a soaked floral dress, looking 20 years younger and infinitely more composed, was Helen. Marcus froze. "Hello, Marcus," she said, and her smile was warm but her eyes were sharp, assessing. "I'm Helen Morrison, CEO of Meridian Tech. Thank you for coming." His mind couldn't process it. This was the woman from the parking garage, the confused elderly woman who couldn't find her car. The CEO of the company where he'd been interviewing? I don't understand, he managed. "Please sit." Helen gestured to a chair across from her desk. When they were both seated, she leaned forward, hands folded. I'm going to be honest with you, Marcus. What you saw this morning was real. I'm 73 years old. I have good days and bad days. This morning was a bad day. The kind where the rain and the confusion and the fear all overwhelm me. Where I can barely remember my own name, let alone where I parked my car. She paused, and Marcus saw vulnerability flash across her face. I stood in that rain for 20 minutes, she continued. 20 minutes watching hundreds of people pass by. Important people, busy people, people with places to be. Not one of them stopped. Except you. Anyone would have, Marcus started. No, Helen cut him off firmly. They wouldn't have. They didn't. And when I got home and looked up the unknown number that had called me, the number that turned out to be our HR department, wondering where you were, I did some research. I found out you're a single father, that you've been out of work for 8 months, that you're supporting a daughter, that this interview probably meant everything to you. Marcus felt his throat tighten. And you gave it up, Helen said softly. Without hesitation, you gave up your one shot to help a confused old woman find her car. She wasn't just a confused old woman, Marcus said quietly. She was a person who needed help. Helen smiled, and it transformed her entire face. That's exactly right. And that's exactly why you're hired. Marcus's breath caught. What? The position you interviewed is probably the wrong word. The position you were supposed to interview for is Senior Project Manager. Starting salary is $95,000 plus benefits. But I'm not offering you that position. Marcus felt the hope that had begun to bloom start to wither. I'm offering you something better, Helen continued. I'm creating a new position, Director of Community Initiatives. Your job will be to oversee our corporate social responsibility programs, our community partnerships, our employee volunteer initiatives. It's a job that requires someone who understands that business isn't just about profit, it's about people. Someone who sees people even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. The salary is $130,000 plus full benefits, including a college fund contribution for your daughter. Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I've built this company over 40 years, Helen said. I've made it profitable, successful, influential. But lately, I've worried that we've lost something in all that growth. We've forgotten that before we're a company, we're people. People who should care about other people. I want you to help me fix that. I want you to help me build a company culture where stopping to help someone in the rain isn't extraordinary, it's expected. I don't know what to say, Marcus whispered. Say yes, Helen said simply. Say yes. And then go pick up your daughter from school and tell her that things are going to be okay now, that she can do that art program, that you can stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders alone. The tears came before Marcus could stop them. He'd spent so many months being strong for Emma, being strong through the job loss and the rejections and the constant fear of not being enough. And now here was this woman, this CEO, who he'd helped in the rain, offering him not just a job, but hope. Offering him the chance to be the father he wanted to be, to give his daughter the life she deserved. Yes, he managed through his tears. Yes, I say yes. Helen stood and extended her hand. When Marcus shook it, her grip was firm, steady, nothing like the trembling woman from that morning. Welcome to Meridian Tech, Marcus. I have a feeling you're going to change this place for the better. 3 months later, Marcus sat in his new office, with his name on the door, reviewing proposals for a new mentorship program that would pair Meridian Tech employees with at-risk youth. Emma's artwork hung on his walls, bright splashes of color that she'd made in her new art classes, the ones she attended twice a week now without him worrying about the cost. His phone buzzed with a text from Helen. Board meeting in 10. They're going to love your presentation on the community garden initiative. Marcus smiled. He'd learned that Helen's bad days were real, that sometimes she needed help finding her car or remembering names or making it through a difficult moment. He'd also learned that she was one of the sharpest, most compassionate leaders he'd ever worked for, someone who'd built an empire without losing her humanity. On his desk sat a framed photo from the company's first Community Service Day, an event Marcus had organized where over 200 Meridian Tech employees had spent a Saturday renovating a homeless shelter. In the photo, Helen stood beside him, both of them in matching volunteer t-shirts, both smiling. But it was another photo that meant the most to him, one he kept in his wallet. It was from that rainy Thursday morning, taken by a parking garage security camera. Helen had gotten a copy and given it to him with a note. The moment everything changed. In the grainy image, you could barely make out Marcus's face through the rain, could barely see Helen's walker, but you could see him, stopped, helping, caring. You could see the exact moment when choosing kindness over convenience had changed two lives forever. Marcus had learned something that day in the rain, something he now tried to teach everyone he worked with. You never know when the person you help might be someone who can change your life. But more importantly, you never know when the life you change might be your own. Because in choosing to help Helen, Marcus hadn't just found a job, he'd found his purpose. He'd found proof that being a good person, teaching Emma by example that kindness matters, that people matter wasn't just the right thing to do. Sometimes, in the most unexpected ways, it was also the smart thing. The thing that opens doors you didn't even know existed. The rain still came down in Chicago, as it always would. But now, when Marcus drove through those grey streets, he didn't just see people rushing past each other, heads down, disconnected. He saw possibility. He saw chances to make a difference. He saw humanity. And every single time, without fail, he stopped.